Hello, everybody. Great to see you and welcome to Genius School's webinar on how to inspire and empower our young people. So we'll just share my screen and we'll get going. So as I say, our webinar today is on how to inspire our future leaders, and it's been delivered by myself. I'm Angie Stead and I'm the co-founder and leader of Genius School. If my trusty slide mover person could come on to the next slide. Thank you, Karen. And I'm here with Karen Bonanno, who is the Teen Quest and Young Entrepreneur Academy leader. So hi, Karen, and welcome to the webinar.
Hi, Angie. Good to be here.
So I will just start with what we're going to cover throughout this webinar. So today we'll be talking about the importance of developing future-ready skills for lifelong success. We'll talk about the powerful alignment of talents, passions and purpose, and how we can, using this alignment, set our children or young people on their pathway to success, and the strategies involved in active learning to develop the 21st century skills and, of course, the entrepreneurial mindset. And they're very closely linked. And then we'll look at the Genius School solution to skilling young people for a successful future. So if we're all good with that, then I'll just do a little bit of an intro on Genius School so you understand what we're about. So we offer child-centered personalized learning pathways for young people that ignite the genius in young people, because that's the most important thing, is the self-awareness. And in igniting that genius, we're creating self-aware lifelong learners, so they can be our empowered future leaders, learning, creating and earning together. And that's what we teach our young people in our programs, is that learning is a lifelong journey, and you're either learning or you're earning as you spiral up. And I think it's appropriate for us to talk about the meaning of the word genius, because Karen and I often get questions around this word. You know, is this program just for somebody who's super duper talented, or is it for somebody, for people, young people with special needs? But actually it's none of that. The meaning of the word genius is derived from the ancient Romans, and it means the unique spirit or personality that resides within the body for the whole life. So it's derived from two Latin terms, genius meaning as above, and ingenium, a related noun referring to the innate dispositions, talents and inborn nature. So it's blending the concepts of the divine and the talented. So as you can see from this meaning, everybody is a genius, and our young people should know that, and we're here to teach it. So after that brief intro about Genius School, I would like to hand over to Karen Bonanno, who's now going to talk about education and how to prepare our young people.
Thanks, Angie. And it's really great to be here to be able to share with you some thoughts about how we prepare our young people for the future, in particular to inspire and empower them. It was interesting to read a report which indicated that 1 in 3 parents doesn't believe their child is being prepared for the future. Now, this came from a report that was pre-pandemic, and it's been interesting to see an increase in this concern over the last 12, 18 months, where in my country it increased to 43% were indicating that they weren't happy with the way the traditional educational system was preparing their child. So if you think about what is happening, there's a lot of emphasis on standardized tests, exams, crowded curriculum, a lot of academic rigor and emphasis on the content. And what results happen is that kids are telling us that the learning's too hard. It's no longer fun. It's boring. And what am I going to do with this information? The information's irrelevant that I'm learning. And then things like, you know, I hate maths, or it might be another subject that they totally dislike, and even why they have to go to school. I often get kids asking me about, why do I need to do this exam? Will it count to my end of year results, or this particular assignment? So there's a real concern that the atmosphere that's generated now around traditional learning is that it really is too hard, and it's very challenging, very difficult, and it becomes disengaging and to a certain extent redundant for a lot of our kids. So we have to think about a different way of delivering education and learning and schooling in our modern society. So there's some of the things that we can look at for what is needed to develop the future ready skills in particular is to move away from that focus on standardization and standardized tests and exams and so forth, and move it more towards personalized learning, where we begin with the unique attributes of our young people. So their unique skills, their capabilities, their natural talents, and then develop a personalized learning pathway that suits them so that the learning is more engaging and a lot more fun. We also need to think about moving away from the kind of silo concept of individual subjects and the emphasis on scholastic or academic. Necessary to have that there, but not as the core emphasis, but shifting to things that focus on life and leadership skills, where what we're doing is we're integrating the learning so that it's connected to real life learning experiences that bring in the content of the curriculum, but it's real life, it's happening, it's now, rather than something that thinking about the past or something that's quite disconnected. Because through this, we can actually develop these young leaders and the digital global citizens that we need for our future world, and also helping them to develop their enterprise skills if they want to pursue the pathway of being an entrepreneur. So in this whole process as well, we're also developing these personal and interpersonal skills, because in a digital environment, we have to be culturally diverse. We have to really work out how we relate to people, because our environment is going to be more collaborative rather than individual. Some other points to think about here as well about what is needed is to move away from that emphasis on exams, which tend to be a one-size-fits-all concept, moving to what we call a challenge-based approach, where our young people are set up with challenges or quests or some type of inquiry that they engage in, whereby it is involving them in active learning so they can play to their natural strengths, and also they can bring in their multiple intelligences when they're undertaking these challenge-based activities or learning tasks. And then moving from information to impact. So it's not about filling up a child's head with a lot of information and knowledge. It's about getting them connected to something that's real life, that's something that is going to impact their future as well as everybody else's. And so we use this as a way to connect people to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so what we're doing is we're getting kids to use their future ready skills that they're developing, as well as their natural capabilities and talents, to contribute to making a change to achieve the United Nations goals, because we've got nations around the world all aiming to achieve the targets that have been set for 2030. And so our young people should be involved in this regardless of their age. So it's interesting because when I think about this, I don't know whether people have seen this report. It was put out by the World Economic Forum early last year, and it's all about schools for the future. And it addresses the issues of the rapid changes to technology like globalization, automation, artificial intelligence, all of these things that are changing the way that we work and play in the way that we live our lives. And so in that report, there is this particular graph, which is all about Education 4.0 framework. And this I see as a way forward that we need to be shifting from traditional schooling into addressing some of the elements that are outlined here in the way learning environments are set up, but also the skills that are needed for young people to be future ready and to be able to step up and make the changes. So this is why Genius School has responded to this with the way that we adopt a personalised learning pathway, and that young people are learning, creating and earning as they engage with us. So there's differences here that you see in comparison to the traditional educational system. And some of those things I've mentioned, but you will get the slides, so you can go and have a look at this a little bit more. But you can see that we're moving more towards it being authentic learning, project-based, purpose-driven, looking at future focus, young people engaging in a global curriculum and engaging with people who are their mentors and have learning experiences around that are real life, and also the shift from getting a job to creating a job. So I think with this, we see a lot more opportunity for young people to develop their skills and capabilities and be future ready. Just to give you an example, this is one of our young graduates, Alex. And Alex was with us at age 13, he's a little bit older now, but he came with a project that was all around a curriculum activity that he did at school. And we kind of tutored him and mentored him through the whole process of how he could turn that project into a business. And for him, he decided that he was going to not only set up his business around selling honey, but was also going to use it as a way of helping other young people to learn about money. So financial literacy 101, but also educate about the importance of bee ecology to the environment and for them to develop positive mindsets. So he aligned his project and his business with the UN goal, Life on the Land, and also then was focused too on how his business was going to address some of those targets for that goal. And so for him, it was looking at getting his honey, processing his honey with the least interference to the bees. So that was Alex shifting from what was a traditional project for school into looking at turning that project into a business. And you can see up here this little fish. We work on a basis that every child and every person, in fact, has a unique genius smart. And for him, he's a people smart, loves to connect with people, and also loves to be involved in that environment where he's now in business and he's connecting with other bee owners. So he's growing his business in many ways. So this is something that really is authentic. It's fun. He's learning and he's still active and he's still excited about what he's doing there. So let's consider some of the steps that we need to take when we're considering empowering our young people, but also getting them so that they can be future ready. The very step we need to do is to allow them to discover their own unique genius. You know, the kids are not really mini-me's. They are unique individuals, as Angie shared with the definition of what a genius is, if we go back to the ancient Roman and Latin times, that each of us has this innate disposition, natural talent and capability. So it's important for them to know their unique strengths and talents. So it's a case of we have a little genius quiz tool which you'll be able to access this and use it. And it's a quick way for them to identify where their genius is. So I shared with you that Alex is a people smart person. We have also the ideas smart. We have, actually, if I go to the next slide, I can talk about that. So we have, this is Alex here. He's a people smart blaze genius. And then we also have our dynamos, our ideas smart, very creative, innovative, big thinkers, big vision, all of those things. And then we have our tempo, which is all about being senses smart, using all of our senses to observe what's happening around us, to be very time conscious, to be very grounded in what we do. And then there's the steel energy, which is the detail smart. So these are the young people who are really into the micro details and making sure processes and structures and systems are all in place. But what we find is that all of them have a natural genius that they tend to gravitate towards, but in fact they have a blend of all of the genius energies, and one of them is more predominant for them. So each of these young people have come through our programs, and we have them coming from all different countries around the world, and also from ages from 9 through to 18. So it's really great that we can share some of their stories with you as a way of seeing how things can change with learning and education. Just as an example here, Corinne lives in Bali, and she has her hobby is art. She loves abstract art, and she's been doing it for a while. In fact, she spends as much time as she can working on her art. And so for her, she wanted to be able to do something with her artwork. And so working with us, again, she was able to build a business around her art. And so she has her Instagram account there. And for her, she wanted to use her art in a unique way. It was to give people good vibes and also to remind them of happy memories and to bring colour to their environment where they are. And so for Corinne, she is what we call our ideas smart. She's a dynamo energy. And so for her, this creativity is all part of her natural skills. And for her to be able to focus on that, it brings about a lot of enjoyment and relevance and fun for her to do that. So then we go to our second step. So we've got our kids knowing who they really are, but then we have to build on that. We have to say, well, okay, you might know what you're good at, but what is it that you love? What is it that you are passionate about, that you would really love to do all of the time and be really fully engaged in that? And so it's also lining too with what the world needs. And that's when I make reference to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And then this last part of the concept of ikigai is what you're paid for. Now, it may be that young people will get paid, that they'll earn some dollars, but it may be that they're actually wanting to engage in some global matter, to be a champion for it or an advocate for it, or to be a voice representing young people. And this is where we have the opportunity to allow our young people to amplify their creative superpowers, because all of them have some amazing strength and talent that they can bring to add value to what happens. So the concept here of discover what you're good at, what you're most passionate about, and what the world needs. Bring it all together, because the ikigai is all about your reason for being. And it's about focusing on living a purposeful, meaningful and fulfilled life. And hence with this complex Venn diagram, we've got that little sweet spot there in the middle where everything overlaps. And so we need to be supporting our young people to discover what they love, what the world needs, combining it with their talents for them to be able to step up. So if you're not familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, this is really allowing young people to be purpose-driven. So to incorporate that into whatever they're doing so that they can feel that they're making a contribution to what is happening in the world around them. And so an example of this when we ran our Teen Leadership Challenge was Alex. Alex decided that he was going to focus on defining and identifying 5 simple actionable steps that any household could take to reach the targets on this goal here of affordable and clean energy. So he pursued all of these open-ended questions to explore what was out there and to then identify what people could do, that they were simple steps to take. And if every household took it, it was making a contribution to achieving the targets of those goals. So you'll be able to watch Alex's video when you get access to the slides for that. So I have a question for you. And we've got a little QR code there. So what you can do is you just need to grab your phone and just get it onto camera and hold it up to the QR code. And what will happen is it will give you that link that you can see there. And you will be able to respond to this particular question. And it's all a question all around what I've just been talking about. And it's in the context of your child. So has your child used their natural genius? That's if they know their natural genius, what their natural talent is and their capabilities and skills, to turn their passion, what they absolutely love doing, into a purpose-based, impact-focused project. So it's really looking at them engaging in a project that will have some impact on the world around them in a positive contribution, but it is focused on being purpose-based. So it'll be interesting. I will bring up the results shortly, just so that you can see our live interaction that's happening here. So let me go to that, and that should be displaying. So it's interesting to see here that we've got I'm not sure, yes, and no. But what we can see here is if we put a line down the middle between yes being at one side of the equation and no and not sure being on the other, we've probably got a higher percentage there of you in this webinar are saying that you're not sure, or it is a no, more so than a yes. So we need to kind of think, how do we get all this happening that we can have that combination of their passions, their purpose, and their impact focus, just like I've kind of outlined here with the ikigai, and you know what their scorecard might be in that, and what do they want to focus on to bring about a change and improve their skills. So our response to this scenario is the Teen Quest. And this is a micro school that we have where we're engaging young people in these impact-focused, purpose-based programs and getting them to develop a message that is very clear and articulate that to the world around them. So if you are interested in that, this is a link here and the team will put the link into the chat so that you can book a call to have a chat with one of our Genius Igniters who'll be able to talk to you about the program and what the possibilities are for your child. But let's go on. Let's step things up a little bit here to step 3, because not only are we looking at what they're good at and also then doing what they love, but it's developing the future-ready skills and then applying them. Now, often within a traditional educational structure, there is the development of future-ready skills, such as collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, all of those things. But is there the application of that within the curriculum programs? And this is something that I think is of concern, is that we need to have our young people not only developing their skills, but also applying those in real life learning environments. And so there's all different skills. And if I go back to the World Economic Forum, down this left-hand side here, you'll see the different skill groups that they identify that young people are needing. So there's not just the technology skills here, which is the programming, digital responsibility and how they use technology, but it's also about being this global citizen. And it's not about being a responsible digital global citizen. It's all about how you play an active role within your community or within your nation or wherever you are wanting to play that role, so that we are looking at the wider issues around the world. Then there's the innovation and creativity. So that is the problem solving. It is the problem finding. It is the solution creation. It's also the analysis and creativity. So it's all around key core future ready skills that young people will need. And then in addition to that, because of the globalization and the global collaboration that they will be working in, it's developing these interpersonal skills, the emotional intelligence skills, and knowing how to be self-aware, socially responsible, and all those things. So this is where we need to be focusing on making sure that our kids are responsive to that, they're engaged in it, and they're developing these skills, plus also that entrepreneur mindset for lifelong success. So there's some things that you can do to get young people up to speed with all of this. And one of the things that we need to focus on is active learning. So it's really taking action through every activity that they engage in, not passively receiving information, whereby they're the kind of, the teacher is the jug filling them up with all this knowledge. It's actually engaging the kids in active action-based learning, whether it be inquiry-based, whether it be the passion-based or purpose-based. There's all different terminology that can be used, but it's them actually taking action. And the very first step in this is for them to have this open mind to learning. It's about being curious, having that sense of wonderment and imagination. What if I were to do this, or what would happen if this was done and put in place? So it's exploring all these possibilities and being innovative and creative in what they're doing. And as part of that, it's first of all to be engaged in that problem solving. So identify what problems are out there and defining them specifically so that you know what type of active learning to be involved in. Now, for us at Genius School, we use the global goals, but there's other ways as well. There could be even local community things that are happening that young people can be involved in, where it might be cleaning up the beachfront or cleaning up the local park, or things that engage them in the community and what's happening, but it's a problem that's there that needs to be solved. And then opening up their mind to making sure they're using some key questions that will help them to dive deep into that problem and to explore it so that they can find a solution. Students who are in probably the high school or university, higher education, may work from a hypothesis statement, that they really start to develop this hypothesis and then explore how that can be proved. So there's different ways of active learning for every different age group. And then this next section, you might kind of think, well, what's this got to do with active learning? Well, let's think about every successful entrepreneur or every successful person that you know in the world. They have all developed what they're working on. Let's take, for instance, recently with Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos doing their space flight. All of that came about because they had people engaging in these three kind of activities that you see here. They were locating and curating relevant information around what's going to be involved in getting this kind of individualized space flight where the ordinary day citizen, of course, with lots of money at the moment, can do this space travel. But any person that you know who's successful, they either engage in this act of learning themselves or they have someone doing it for them. But they're going out there and getting the most relevant, up-to-date information on what they're doing. And then they work then and they gather it, they then synthesize it to make sure they're staying laser beam focused on whatever it is, whatever solution they're creating, whatever problem they're defining, whatever problem they're solving. And then what they do then is take all of that and put it into some sort of format that is going to be able to be presented to the world or to a community or wherever it may be. So it's designing the best format and then creating and then presenting it. And we have, of course, all multiple formats out there these days whereby someone can have their voice heard about something that they're wanting to be getting a message across. And that's what we believe young people should be engaged in. Now, just an example of this, we have these two young ladies who were students at the Green School Bali, and they were inspired by a lesson in the school that was about significant people and what those significant people did to bring about change in their world. And so for them, they asked themselves the question that you see on the screen: what can we do as children living in Bali now to make a difference? And for them, being on their Bali island, what they found was there was always this plastic being washed into the oceans, particularly when the monsoons came through and the storms would flush the rivers out and push all the plastic out into the ocean. And so they started this movement, Bye Bye Plastic Bags. And they were only quite young at the time when they started this, because they started it locally, but because they were really targeted on a passion and purpose-driven exercise for them, they now are having their Bye Bye Plastic Bags program global, and people can join them from around the world to be part of their movement to start to minimise the use of plastic bags. And these young ladies get the opportunity to speak at United Nations forums and also at what they call the TED Talks. So you can go and do a search for them and you'll see how strong their message is and how broad their message is in all different environments. So these are our young leaders and change makers. And I can assure you, they started back in this type of active learning environment to get where they are, where they're being involved in this whole Bye Bye Plastic Bags movement. So my question for you here, and this is another little hold up your camera, pointed at that QR code, and the little question will pop up. And the question is your child developing, and I should probably add in here, applying their future ready skills under the current education system? So are they getting the opportunity to learn about these future ready skills? Are they engaged in that active learning environment to apply what they're learning to something that is going to have meaning for them and relevance? So that's going to be, just give you a few moments to key your responses in there, and then I'll pop on over to the survey results and we'll see what you've got happening there for us. So let me just got to juggle things around here. Here we go. And here we have the results, which for me, that's pretty startling and amazing. So we've got 67% a no, 33% saying sometimes, and we've got no on the yes. So for me, that really says something about where we're all sitting right now in this current educational environment. And as I outlined right at the beginning, it was like 1 in 3 parents, and it's now up to higher than that. As I said, in Australia, it's around 43, 50% are not happy with the way the education system is. And of course, we've gone through this whole crisis educational process with the pandemic. But what it's done, it's raised to our awareness some of the concerns. And so this particular quote by John Dewey, I think, is really relevant for what we're talking about right now, is if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. So we really need to rethink how we're educating our young people so that they can step up and their voices can be heard, but they can also play to their strengths and make a contribution to what's happening. So for us here at Genius School, our response to this whole scenario that kids aren't developing their future-ready skills in an educational traditional system is we've developed this program, which is all geared towards helping them to develop those 21st thinking skills, but also their learning skills that they can take into the future, because all of us are going to have to be constantly learning because of the rapid change of what's happening with automation, artificial intelligence, globalization. We're all going to have to be learning along the way. So this is a 4-week micro school, and it's all about getting kids to learn those capabilities and skills. And we have 3 different class levels. We have the junior class, 10 to 13, senior class, 14 to 18, and then we have a graduate class, 18 to 24, for those young people who are in their higher education, because many of them are entering into a higher education learning and really don't have the skills to, particularly to engage in independent learning where they have to be responsible for how they're engaging. And so for us, we have this quest and this challenge that is the basis on which we will build the skills for the young people. The very first step is, of course, for them to discover their unique genius. And then we embark on this active learning, which is through inquiry, for them to seek out and search for a solution to a global challenge or a problem or an issue. And then they design and create and present this purpose-based persuasive message. Lots of P's in there, a bit hard to get my tongue around it, but a persuasive purpose-based presentation that will convince the audience for change. And by having them engage in this, we're helping them to develop their future-ready skills. We're helping them to develop their capabilities and also to be a voice for the young people. What happens in that, or what's included for you in the Teen Quest, is on a Monday to Friday, it requires about 1 hour online. So it's a combination of online and offline. Some of it is self-managing their time because we have a portal where they go and look at little short videos. Then there'll be time for live interaction masterclasses where we help them to really fully understand what they're learning and also dive deep into things like problem solving, solution creation, creative, critical thinking, being innovative, being creative. And we have a online discussion space. So I will be in there with my colleague, Leonie, and I'll introduce Leonie to you shortly. And we'll be in this space where if there's any questions, we're there to answer them. But then we've also got this online learning portal where we've got a whole lot of resources that they can access and use that are geared to all the different ways that our young people learn. So there's a great opportunity here for engaging with young people as well on this particular quest. And it'll be interesting to see the results that they deliver. So for those who are a little bit more visual focused, this is how the curriculum for our Teen Quest plays out. So we have the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's an hour online. We start off with that very early beginning that I mentioned about the profiles, the different genius energies and genius smarts, and the Ikigai. And then we move into that very first step of action learning, of opening your mind, of being curious, using your imagination, gaining that sense of wonderment about something in the world that you may want to change. And then each of the modules then will go through that. And then on the implementation days are when we interact live and work through the whole learning process and support, and in a way what we say facilitate and scaffold the young person's learning. So this is the self-paced learning portal and the online community. It's kind of all inbuilt together. And everyone will have full access to the modules, and they're only short. So if you're familiar with Khan Academy or some of those other platforms, they're only short little videos, which means you play it and you can play it as many times as you like. to get the information, and then there's the discussion where we talk about this. So this is actually a different way of learning, where the young person is exploring the content, the what, and then we're helping them then in our live interaction sessions to pursue the how to learn, how to process information, and support them for that. And so there's also access bonus recordings. We've got that in the whole learning process as well. So there's a lot of information and a lot of resources available for them. We have a resources portal. And so this is also going to be available to them beyond the 4-week program, because as they engage in future learning activities, they're going to be probably needing to come back and explore the different tools and templates, because they'll remember something and go, yes, this is how I can apply this. So they'll have access to this resources portal to come back to. And then just introducing Leonie to you. For myself, you can see there that I've been involved in education, actually in the K-12 sector for over 40 years, and also involved in private education consulting and support for young people, and involved with the Genius School with curriculum as well. And then Leonie is also coming from an education background, primary to tertiary. Leonie is actually currently working with tertiary students, and so she brings that element in for the graduate learners. But this is all going to be working around providing strong mentor sessions for them to shift that emphasis from a traditional schooling focus to more of this kind of open, personalised learning environment, and have the support for the young people in smaller groups, and where necessary, we will do one-to-one. So it's a great time to engage in such an activity. And then an important part of it, a core foundation, as I outlined before, is for young people in that very first stage, knowing who they are. Who are you really? What are your natural strengths and talents? So these two reports, the teen dynamics, of course, speaks for itself. It's for the younger people. And then the talent dynamics, we also provide access to the adult to engage, to find also their natural talents and capabilities. And these reports outline things like strengths, challenges, successes, how you work in a team, the type of industries that you can work in where your natural skills are really brought out to the fore. So that's the two reports. So if you're interested in being involved with us, now's the time to take some action, because our program is starting next month. And it's we're having small class size. We're limiting our class size because it's important to help our young learners be supported and also engaged in that personal learning. So we have our junior, senior and graduate groups, and the learning experience with all of the extra material and resources that I shared with you just before, it's all for $595. So it's a unique opportunity to be involved in our Genius School curriculum. In particular, as we see the need, and that's evidenced by what you're saying here in these results, there is strong evidence here for your child to be involved in developing their critical, innovative and critical thinking skills to be future ready. So our team's going to put that booking calendar link into the chat once again to make it easy for you to just to click on that and book a free call, so that you can have a chat with the Genius School team to be engaged in this particular program. So now's the chance to do that, so that you can make the most of that opportunity. And just to finish off, these two quotes come from young people who, at the peak of the pandemic last year, made these statements, and they were part of different groups. Dylan was part of a group here in Australia, which was all about young people really working in their communities to try and help bring about the change and help people to cope with what was happening. And for him, he made this statement that young people will be expected to pick up the pieces. So it's only fair and reasonable that we're given a voice and are heard. And he was saying that in the context of the whole aspect of what's happening to our planet. And so for him, he's saying we need to be given the chance to step up and to be able to be engaged. And so for something like the Teen Quest, this is a great platform for young people to develop that capacity to do that. And then here we've got a former Save the Children Youth Foundation ambassador person. It's my hope that the voices of young people are not only listened to, but are respected and understood. Our opinions are needed to be heard, not only by those in power, but the adults around us. Yes, young people are ready to step up. And, we saw the example of the Bye Plastic Bag youngsters who are still out there, strong, advocating, making change. And there are other young people, I'm sure, that in your world, you will be aware of young leaders and change makers who've brought about that change. So today's the chance to connect with us and have your child involved in our Teen Quest program.